In my past life, I died alone on the street, killed by debt collectors. That huge loan my mom took out crushed our whole family, and cost me my life. When my soul floated up in the air, I finally saw the truth. That debt wasn't my mom's at all. It was all my aunt's fault. Mom just felt bad for her little sister being chased, so she took all the debt on herself without a second thought. I opened my eyes again, and I was back to the day my mom was about to sign the IOU. I grabbed the household register and shoved it into my dad's hand. My heart churned with hate and fear from the past. I said word by word, Dad, you two should get a divorce. The full story is already done. Hey guys, I just found a new toy for ladies. Night Jenny. It's truly the top tier, they say. Can't even last a minute. Mango green tea reminds you. The story's about to start. 1. Mom suddenly got hit with over $1 million in debt. For a regular family like ours, it was like the sky falling down. Dad couldn't bear to see it, so he gritted his teeth and took on the burden. From then on, our family of 4 sold the house and worked hard to pay it off, hiding here and there just to survive, robbing Peter to pay Paul, never having a proper peaceful meal. After 4 long years, we barely managed to pay off over $400,000, but still had $700,000 left. That day was my little brother's birthday. We splurged and bought a fish for once. Right as we were about to dig in, the biggest creditor, Joe Hu, kicked the door down. He was a street thug in his youth, with dragons and tigers tattooed on his arms. He flipped our crappy table with one hand and smashed it on the ground. Food spilled everywhere. I felt bad seeing it but didn't dare say a word. Joe Hu glared at my mom, Lin Wanqing, like a demon. I wanna see where you can hide now. When are you gonna pay up? Come on. Mom's voice shook as she whispered, Big Bro Hu. I just sent you $4,000 last month. I'll slowly pay the rest. Joe Hu was totally fed up and sneered, $4,000 a month. That $500,000 will take forever to pay off. He just laughed, like $4,000 a month for real. With $500K you'd be paying till the cows come home. Plus the loan shark keeps adding interest. You'll never be able to pay that off in your lifetime. He lights a cigarette and sits down, his eyes all dark and menacing. If you don't want to die today, then give me your sister Lin Wanrao's address. I'll go collect from her. Mom's eyes instantly turn red, holding onto Auntie tight. Don't go after my sister. She's having a rough time. If you need someone to lean on, come to me. Dad hesitates and almost says something, but just blurts out, Wanqing. Wanru might be struggling, but she's still better off than us. I heard she even bought a cat for over $10,000 last month. Why don't you ask her to lend you some cash first? Mom shoots Dad a hard glare. The moment her sister comes up, she instantly gets tough. I'll scrape together the money as fast as I can. But Wanru's address, you'll have to kill me first. Joe Hu is totally pissed off now. He slams his hand on the cabinet. How many years have you been saying that? Don't you get it? Since you got no spine, then today I'll buy your life for $500,000. He flies into a rage and kicks Mom to the ground twice. Dad tries to step in, but his goons grab him and beat him up. I watch my little brother crying in terror and frantically grab my phone to call the cops, but that just ticks Joe Hu off even more. He charges over and slaps me hard across the face, then smashes my phone to the ground. In a panic, I grab a knife from the kitchen and run, but he easily snatches it away and starts pounding on me with his fists. He chases me out the door with the knife, screaming and cusses, "There's a young one at home, right? Why don't you sell yourself to pay off the debt?" Joe Hu has gone completely berserk. I get up but he grabs me again. From the house all the way to the street, I'm beaten within an inch of my life, the cuts on my body getting deeper and deeper. He gets more vicious with every hit. You've owed me money for years without paying back. Who do you think you are? That bitch Lin Wanru said she'd pay it back in the second month. It's been 20 years already. Can that ever be paid off? Joe Hu's goons frantically grab him, shouting, "Boss, you just killed someone. This girl is barely in her 20s. Can't handle getting beaten like that from you." I looked at my own swollen, bruised face, my back covered in horrifying knife scars. Blood trailed from our doorstep all the way to the main road. My heart felt frozen cold. I knew I was already dead. I could clearly see my own mangled, bloody body, but I couldn't feel any pain at all anymore. 2. Joe Hu finally snapped out of it. Shaking with fear, he collapsed, sitting on the ground, face pale as ghost. Mom rushed out, holding my body, crying loudly, turned to the creditor and said, "The money we owe you. My daughter already paid with her life. Don't keep pushing Wanru anymore." My soul was hit with a massive shock. I was chopped to death alive. But all Mom could think about at that moment was still whether her little sister would suffer. Joe Hu looked at Mom with a complicated expression. "Your daughter having a mom like you is more unlucky than me. This money was borrowed from me by Lin Wanru, and you insist on shouldering it for her. Selling everything you own. Won't even pay for one of her bags. I really wonder what wind you're trying to catch. Mom wiped away her tears. With a stubborn look. I'm the big sister. It's my duty to shield my younger siblings from storm. It's worth it. It's worth it. I only felt absurd and heartbroken. This debt made our family live like rats in the street. And cost me my life. In the end, all she said was it's worth it. Then what about my dad and my brother? Dad looked at my body lying across the ground, choking with tears. Couldn't accept reality, and passed out right there. Neighbors quickly called the cops. At the police station, Jo-hoo claimed it was accidental manslaughter, but Mom admitted we were wrong first, and even signed a letter of forgiveness, like she wanted to get killed. In the end, Jo-hoo only got 3 years in prison. And my little aunt didn't even show up to my funeral. Dad cried at my grave for a whole day and night, and went completely insane. When I opened my eyes again, I got a second chance at life. 3. If I owe $100,000, would you help me pay it off? Mom was sitting on the bed folding clothes. She casually asked Dad like it was no big deal. Dad, who was playing checkers on the computer, turned his head. With a blank look on his face, he stared at Mom. This scene was so familiar it made my heart tighten. This was exactly how it started in my past life. Mom was mad because Dad only gave $8,000 as gift money for her family. She accused him of not respecting her side of the family, threw a fit and wanted a divorce. She didn't talk to Dad for the whole day. In the past, Dad saw Mom talking to him first. He was over the moon, and without hesitation he said, "No matter what life throws our way, I'll face it all with you." Dad kept his word. In the years that followed, even when he got sick and couldn't do heavy work, it also made me pay off that so-called failed investment debt for Jong Laoya. Maybe it was Dad's sense of responsibility that gave Mom the nerve to do whatever she wanted. He knew someone had his back. So he didn't hesitate to bring all of Auntie's bad debts into our home, killing me and driving Dad crazy, making my little bro live a rough life since he was 1.5. Before Dad even said a word, I immediately cut them off. There was only one thought in my mind. I can't make the same mistakes again. Mom, didn't you guys say you wanted a divorce yesterday? Are we going in the morning or the afternoon? Mom was stunned by what I said, looking a little awkward. Then remembering yesterday, her face dropped again. I already sent Wanru 2,000 as the gift money. If your dad takes this month's salary to buy Meow Meow a game console, and comes with me to apologize to Auntie's place, then I'll think about not getting divorced for now. I grabbed the household register and shoved it into Dad's hand. My tone was firm. I'm backing your divorce, Dad. Since you're so mean to the people Mom cares about, just let her go. I silently prayed in my heart, please let Dad go, Mom. Dad took the household register, looked at Mom and me, then lowered his eyes with guilt. Mom immediately put on a sad face, starting to reminisce about the hard times and sweet times. Back then you had nothing. No family, no friends. I followed you. Didn't care about anything, only cared that you treated me well, and treated my family well. Dad was always grateful that Mom didn't look down on him for being an orphan. Mom held that over his head her whole life, keeping him totally under her thumb. I reminded Dad at the right moment. Exactly, Dad. Mom is so good to you. When Auntie held Haoshuan's college entrance banquet, you couldn't even spare 10 grand for the gift money. But for my little bro's 1-month party last year, Auntie was so generous. Mom's face instantly turned awkward. I pretended to be furious. You have to get a divorce, no question. Dad is way out of line. Mom forced out 2 awkward laughs. Actually, your dad isn't as unforgivable as you say. Dad mumbled resentfully. For your little bro's 1-month party, Auntie and them gave 2 grand. Still borrowed it from your mom. Never knew if it ever got paid back. I'm the older sister. So what if I'm a little harsh on my brother? Whenever I mention anything about my mom's side, Mom's face instantly changed. She threw down the folded clothes in her hands, and was about to blow up at Dad. Just then, the phone Mom had charging nearby started ringing. 4. Seeing the contact name Wanru, I quickly picked up the call, and casually turned on the speakerphone. My aunt's voice came through. Sis, have you made up your mind yet? Mom rushed over in big strides. Snatching the phone from my hand, turning off the speaker, she nervously glanced at Dad. But Dad had already turned back to his afternoon self-study. I asked casually. Made up my mind about what? Mom stuttered to my aunt. I don't know what old Sue thinks yet. Let me think about it. Something was said on the other end. Seemed like my aunt was yelling at Mom. Mom's frown got deeper. She hung up the phone. Then Mom said to Dad. Old Sue, I need to head to Wanru's place later. 5. Dad looked surprised. Didn't we just come back from her place 2 days ago? This time is different. After Haoshuan's graduation party, there's a small family gathering for 2 tables. She's asking me to come over. Dad nodded. It suddenly hit me. In my past life after that family gathering on Mom's side, Mom came back from my aunt's place and suddenly had over $1 million in debt on her back. There were blank IOU notes stamped with Mom's fresh red thumbprints. At least 7 or 8 creditors. This must be hiding some scheme me and Dad didn't know about. This time, I can't let our whole family fall into that pit again. Dad, I want to go celebrate for brother Haoshuan too. Let's all go together with Mom. Mom was all for us getting closer to her family. So she agreed right away. Before Dad could say no, I added another line. Mom's talking about divorce cause you're not nice to her family. You can't bail out and leave her hanging. Dad was convinced by what I said. Mom happily took us to buy an Xbox for Miley. 6. I looked at the gaming console on the shelf that cost over $3,000, then glanced at the wafer cookie toy, clenched in my little brother's hand, and felt a pang of bitterness inside. Mom's always been like this. No matter if something's cheap or expensive, she always puts auntie's kid first. Down to a bowl of rice, or an orange. Always that biased. When we were kids, my brother and Miley were together. Mom had 3 oranges and gave 2 to Miley, leaving just 1 for me and my brother to share. I asked her back then confused. Shouldn't it be 1 orange per person? Why does cousin Miley get 2? But Mom scolded me for being immature. You are my kids. You are on my side. What's the big deal, letting your cousin have a little more? She makes herself feel small. And she also makes her own kids feel small. But she gives her heart and soul to strangers. Always generous with outsiders. And harsh with the people closest to her. My brother sat beside me, his little hand squeezing the wafer cookie bag, making a crinkly sound, smiling without a care in the world. Totally unaware that his life was about to be turned upside down. I pointed at the remote control car on the shelf. Mom, my brother could play with this remote control car. It's $200 cheaper than the Xbox. Can you buy one for him too? Dad picked up the remote control car and dropped it into the shopping basket, laughing and saying, we'll get both. Mom's face instantly changed. She put the remote control car back, testing the waters with me. Winnie, how about you don't go to that 3rd-tier college? Tuition is too pricey. We don't have the money. Dad frowned right away. How can we not have the money? Mom stammered. There's a lot of expenses coming up. Every bit we save counts. I looked at the gift she had in her hand for Miley. Both angry and amused. Save up to buy your sister's son an Xbox. How can you talk like that? Mom raised her hand to slap me. But Dad stopped her. Dad said in a low voice. I don't mind working harder. One has to go to college no matter what. Mom opened her mouth. But in the end she kept quiet. My nose stung. Back in my past life after Mom got into debt, I was forced to drop out of school, and had to hustle with the family at a street stall. Out early back late, carrying rice bags fighting for fresh veggies. So many times I saw Dad sneaking off to wipe his tears, feeling guilty about me. Back then debt collectors made a scene at Dad's hospital, and he lost his job. A real surgeon. Ended up selling stuff at the night market. If he wasn't totally cornered, he would never let me give up school. When Aunt Seven opened the door, she froze seeing our hands on the doorknob. Clearly didn't expect both of us to show up. She forced a stiff smile. Brother-in-law Wan's here too. Mom said with a smile. Yeah. Lao Su got Meow a game console. And also got Haoshuan a figurine. To celebrate him getting into college. Aunt glanced inside the house. Looking a bit awkward. I noticed the bag hanging by the door. And asked her with a smile. Is that a new bag you got? Aunt immediately stuck her chin up. Pure pride in her eyes. You bet. Looks good, right? I said softly. It does. More than that. That's the latest LV bag. Pricey stuff. Aunt took the game console. And said, come on in and have a seat. I walked in and looked around. The living room had a dozen people. 7 or 8 were familiar elders. The other 7 or 8 were new faces. Among those strangers, I instantly spotted Chow. My body went into full panic mode. Couldn't stop shaking. I forced myself to chill out. Kept telling myself, he doesn't know who I am right now. He's not gonna hurt me. All I had to do was cut my family off from this mess. My aunt really had some nerve pulling this off. In my past life my mom signed all those IOUs right in front of these elders. She got all confused, and pressed her fingerprints, turning my aunt's debt into our bottomless pit. 8. We barely sat down. This old lady on the couch started wailing like crazy. My husband's still in the hospital. That 70 grand is literally life-saving money. Please just pay me back first. My dad froze. Totally caught off guard by this. My aunt gave my mom a worried look. Mom got the hint right away. She walked up and helped the old lady up. Then she just asked straight up, is it 70 grand? The old lady stared at Mom blankly. Mom checked her phone balance, scanned my WeChat, Send me your bank card info. I'll transfer it to you. 70 grand transferred just like that. Even though dad doesn't handle the finances, he still sensed something off. He asked Mom Maureen, "What's the deal with this 70 grand?" Mom looked at him. Didn't know how to explain. My aunt jumped in to explain. "My sister owes auntie 700 grand. Her husband has kidney failure and is in the hospital. They need the money for dialysis to stay alive." When she said that, not just my dad, even the old lady had a look on her face. The old lady looked at my aunt, then at my mom about to transfer the cash. The words "you didn't borrow that money" were right on her lips, but she swallowed them back. Dad pushed Maureen. "What is really going on here?" Mom thought for a second and made up an excuse. "Just lost some money on investments. Borrowed it from auntie. Her husband desperately needs it. We'll pay it back first to help." Dad was kinda annoyed, but whatever. A debt is a debt and needs to be paid. So he didn't push it further. Auntie saw Dad sit down, and she was obviously relieved. She said to everyone, "I told you my sister will pay up. Nothing to worry about. Today is all about celebrating my Haoshuan. Let's deal with other stuff later." Okay. Everyone saw Mom being generous. They thought she was loaded, so they dropped it. Auntie Zhang was about to scan Mom's WeChat. I muted the TV, grabbed the mic and stood up. I was dead set on exposing this fraud. "Hello everyone. My name is Su-wan, Lin Wanqing's daughter. Can I ask, who else here is my mom's creditor? My parents are getting divorced. Let's clear up the couple's debt right now." 9. Divorce. Auntie's eyes went wide instantly. She knew best. Mom is a stay-at-home mom. No income of her own. The whole family depends on dad. If they divorce, Mom can't handle over $1 million in debt. She rushed right up. With a twisted face she blamed me. "Su-wan, what crap are you talking? Divorce isn't that simple. You as a daughter don't care about your parents. Why are you being so mature?" I blinked, acting all innocent. "It's true. Ask my mom if you don't believe me. They were supposed to go to the courthouse today, but auntie called us over, so it got delayed." I raised my voice and shouted again. "Since no one's speaking up, any debt after my parents leave this door, we won't take responsibility for a single cent." Still no one stepped forward. After all, that money wasn't really borrowed by my parents. Hearing they haven't divorced yet, auntie breathed a sigh of relief, but worried they'd get divorced when they go back. So she steeled herself and said to Dad, "Brother-in-law, don't be mad. My sister did owe over $1 million. Her investment failed. Don't blame her. Business has its ups and downs. Your whole family sticks together. You'll pay it off sooner or later." Dad was totally stunned, almost passed out from anger. Those creditors looked at each other, totally confused. Wasn't Lin Wanru who borrowed the money? Why is there suddenly a sucker willing to take the blame? Auntie saw their confusion, turned to the creditors and said, "Don't worry everyone. My brother-in-law is a surgeon at the hospital. He's got a real job. Makes good money. He'll pay you all back slowly." This vague talk gave the creditors hope, also kept Dad in the dark. I walked up to Dad, asked Mom seriously, "Did you really borrow that $1 million plus?" Mom paused, saw Auntie's pitiful face, gritted her teeth. "It's my debt." I nodded. "All right. So can you name all these creditors, one by one? How much do we owe each of them? Do you remember?" Well, Mom was speechless, couldn't answer at all. She only knew the rough amount at first. Only after signing the IOUs at Auntie's place did she know who owed what. Now she hadn't even seen the IOUs. Some creditors she didn't even know. I pointed at Johu's mom. "That uncle over there. How much do you owe him? Tell me and Dad." Mom looked away. "Like 100 or 200 grand. I forgot. Gotta check the records." Johu snapped impatiently. "What did you say?" "Trying to shake off my 40 grand. Auntie was terrified. Quickly apologized for Mom. Said she just misremembered. Would help her sort it out later. I smiled helplessly, picked up the mic and sighed at Johu. "Uncle, since my mom owes you this much. All right, here's the deal. My parents are getting divorced. I'm going with my mom. My little brother is still young. He needs dad to work and raise him. Even though my mom has no income. But after I graduate in 4 years, I'll help pay it back with her. Work hard. We'll definitely clear your money in 20 years. Hearing 20 years, Johu instantly flipped out. He threw his lit cigarette at my aunt. Even my usually loud uncle didn't dare say a word. Johu yelled angrily. "Lin Wanru. No matter who pays it back. You owe me 600,000. Not a single cent left." Dad finally got the whole story. His face was dark and scary. He was totally disappointed in Mom. 11. Aunt Zhang saw mom wasn't transferring the money. She dropped to her knees in front of mom and aunt, crying and begging them to save her husband's life. Dad spoke in a deep voice, Lin Wanqing. If you make this money without a clear conscience today, then don't expect to keep this marriage. Mom paused, looking torn. My aunt immediately switched faces. With tears in her eyes, she pulled out a bank card and put it in front of Aunt Zhang. But looking at mom, Aunt Zhang, there's over 20,000 in here. It's the college tuition and living expenses I saved for Haoshuan. Take it for Uncle Zhang's treatment. Haoshuan won't go to college this year. Mom immediately shoved the card back into Aunt's hand. How can you not go when you've been accepted? She seemed to forget just a few hours ago. She was still trying to talk me out of school. I pointed at my aunt's LV bag. Auntie, this bag is this year's new model. It's worth over 70 grand. My aunt realized things were about to go south. She rushed over and grabbed the mic, yelling at me. Shut up. No way I'm shutting up. The pain from my past life is still burned into my bones. I shouted at the top of my lungs. Aunt Zhang, that debt wasn't even my mom's to begin with. If you take the 70 grand from my mom, we could use the bank records to sue and get it back. Aunt Zhang caught on right away. She snatched the LV bag from my aunt's hands quick as a flash, saying she'd trade it for cash. The other creditors saw that and rushed in to grab the bag too. My little aunt was screaming her head off on the side. That's my bag. That bag is mine. Mom immediately stepped in front of my aunt, shielding her and yelling, if you got a problem, come at me. Leave Wanru alone. Dad looked at mom and just thought she was being ridiculous. Lin Wanqing, if you still want this family, go back inside right now. If you insist on paying off this debt, we're getting a divorce. Mom froze for a couple seconds, then plopped down on the floor and started blaming Dad for having no heart, saying she stuck with him when he had nothing, just because he treated her well. But no matter how clueless Dad was, he could finally see what was really going on. 12. Mom refused to leave because Dad said divorce, and she wouldn't sign the IOU. Dad got furious, grabbed me and my brother and walked away. Mom was still behind us yelling that we had no heart, saying we were cruel to her. Back home, Dad looked at my brother, then asked me, do you really want me to divorce your mom? I answered without hesitation, yeah. But your brother's still so young. Dad was still a little torn. I could see he hated to let go. Eyes red, I asked him. Mom said she owes over $1 million. With interest from loan sharks. You sure you can take care of us three and pay off that debt at the same time? Dad shook his head right away. I thought about how bad things were in my past life. Tears started flowing down my face. Dad, you can't bear to lose mom. But can you bear to see me drop out of college? Work 12-hour shifts every day doing nasty dirty jobs, not even spend a single penny? Can you bear to see my brother not even get a fish for his birthday? Our family was destroyed in that past life, living on the edge, all because of this debt that ain't ours is. Dad stayed quiet for a long time, then muttered low, I'm never letting you guys live like that. But I knew. Deep down he still couldn't let go of mom. Thinking about what mom did in my past life, I cut in right away. Dad, my school needs the tuition early. Can you go pull out some cash? 13. Where's the family bank card? Everyone knows. Only mom and dad know the PIN. And it's linked to mom's phone, so she can check the spending. I went with dad to get the money, but found zero in the account. I had dad check every single card. Sure enough, all the money was moved by mom. Even dad's paycheck account was empty. Dad let out a sigh. In that moment he looked 10 years older. He pulled out the marriage certificates. 8 big red booklets. 6 of them were 3 marriage certificates, 3 divorce certificates. I was speechless. Dad awkwardly explained. Your mom went through divorce twice in a few years. One time was using my year-end bonus to get your uncle a wife. Another was for your aunt's engagement. The other time I forgot why. Always for her siblings. I got used to it. It's just a piece of paper. Torn up and patched back. After this last makeup, they hadn't gotten a new marriage certificate yet. I was both shocked and relieved. At least they had no legal marriage now. Dad smiled bitterly and asked, if I said no to divorcing your mom, what would you do? I pulled out my phone. With the full recording from Aunt's place today. Dad froze for a second. Then burst out laughing. You're one smart kid. 14. Mom stayed at Aunt's for a few days, and came back with a stack of IOUs, laying them out in front of me and Dad, spilling out her repayment plan. Exactly like in my past life. Sell the house. Make me drop out of school. To sell stuff on the street with him. He said all confidently. A family can earn more and spend less. There's always a day to pay it off. But we weren't his family. My aunt was his real family. Dad got so mad he kicked mom out. Lin Wanqing. We're already divorced. The 2 kids are mine. You want to pay your sister's debt? Then do it yourself. Don't drag us into it. Mom heard that and started blaming Dad for being heartless and ungrateful. This time, Dad finally got tough and filed for divorce. He laid all his bank cards in front of Mom and yelled, "The 200K in savings is all gone from your account. You didn't even leave money for my tuition. Do you deserve to be a mom? Keep the savings. The kids and house are mine. Go live with your sister. You guys are the real family." No matter how much Mom cried or guilt tripped him, Dad didn't budge. Mom finally accepted reality. She threw out a harsh last word, saying Dad would regret it sooner or later, and then went back to her parents' place, swearing, even if Dad begged her, she wouldn't come back. I just thought it was awesome. To pay off my aunt's debt, Mom and Aunt rented a stall in the city to sell fast food. But my aunt barely ever showed up. It was all Mom working from dawn to dusk. She slept less than 4 hours a day, and fainted twice from overwork. I didn't really feel bad for her. Just thought that she chose this path herself. I thought they gave up on making Dad pay. But suddenly one day, Dad's coworker called saying Dad got beaten up by a patient's family. I rushed to the hospital and found out Aunt Chassons was admitted. Aunt Zhang insisted the money was Dad's debt and pressured him to pay up. Dad refused. So Aunt Zhang called Mom. And Mom actually admitted the money was her debt. Aunt Zhang's family hung a banner at the hospital saying Dr. Wu Liang owes money and won't pay. And even hit Dad. Dad had a heart attack from the anger. Even in the hospital bed he got chewed out by the director. I pushed through the crowd and heard the director shaking his head saying, "Old Su, if you keep hurting the hospital's reputation like this, the hospital will have no choice but to fire you." Turns out the creditors had been causing trouble at the hospital before. Mom was still trying to talk some sense into Dad. Just ask the hospital for an advance on your pay. Pay off Aunt Zhang's debt and it'll be over. Family's supposed to help each other out. Su. Dad was so furious he passed out cold. I yanked Mom aside, called the cops and had Aunt Zhang and the ones who got physical taken to the station. Turns out my aunt moved to dodge the debt. The creditors couldn't find her. So they came to Dad's workplace to stir up drama and insisted it was Mom who borrowed the money. Mom was trying to force Dad to cover for my aunt. She actually went along with them. I pulled out my phone and played the full recording from my aunt's place that day. The cop's face changed a few times. Guess he'd never seen a mom so clueless. The cop said the evidence was solid. This already counts as extortion and defamation. In serious cases, you could get up to 3 years in prison. I looked at Aunt Zhang and asked her, "Does my mom still owe you money now?" Aunt Zhang quickly shook her head. "No, she doesn't." "Then please pass the word to the other creditors. This recording is already on file at the police station. Anyone who comes to us for money again can expect to go to jail." I went back to the hospital and showed the recording to the director, proving that Dad was innocent. The director sighed a few times after hearing it and transferred Dad to a private room. No outsiders allowed to bother him. Dad was still unconscious. I stayed at the hospital to take care of him for a few days, then decided to go home to grab some clean clothes and check on my brother who I'd left with our neighbor Grandma Lee. As soon as I walked up to the entrance of our neighborhood, Granny Lee stopped me and asked, "Wan Wan, are you guys selling your house?" 17. What? My heart dropped. I raced back home. Inside, Mom was with my aunt, my uncle-in-law and some agents. The agent said everything's fine. We can sign the contract tomorrow. I charged over and ripped the contract apart, yelling angrily, "What are you doing? Get out of my house." Mom froze when she saw me. She stared at me closely. Just a month, and she looked way older. I guess running the business alone was really tough without help. She said, "Wan Wan, Mom wants to sell the house to pay off what we owe Aunt Zhang and Uncle Lu first. Money doesn't matter. We can earn it back later." I was so mad I laughed. My aunt has her own house too. Why not sell hers? "Hi there, your cousin brother just graduated college. He needs a house and a wife." He said it so casually, like he didn't even have his own kid. I didn't want to argue anymore. I opened the door. "If you guys don't leave now, I'll call security to kick you out." I pulled out my phone to call. My uncle-in-law rushed over and grabbed my phone. I struggled like crazy. He shoved me to the floor. My forehead hit the coffee table. It hurt so bad. Blood from my forehead dripped into my eyes. Everything looked red. My uncle-in-law's face twisted in rage. "You ruined it twice." He was furious. It's raised his hand to hit me. Out of instinct I covered my head. But the pain I expected never came. I opened my eyes and saw my dad standing right in front of me. He shoved my uncle-in-law away in one move. His eyes were so cold even the tough uncle-in-law shivered. Dad turned around and helped me up. His gaze was as gentle as the sunset in summer. He asked softly, "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt." Dad's eyes got all red. His voice choked up as he said, "You silly kid. So many cuts. So much blood. How could it not hurt?" At 18. My eyes started to sting. Tears just spilled out. I knew. Dad came back too. I'm not fighting alone anymore. Mom stepped in to smooth things over. One. Your aunt loves you. She treats you like her own kid. She just wants to be close to you. Talk some sense into your dad. We can pay off the debt together. Everyone's happy. Still one big family. Dad glanced at Mom and said coldly, "I already called the cops. Trespassing is a crime, you know." When the police dragged Mom away, she couldn't figure out why Dad suddenly went all heartless. Dad told me, last time Mom made him so mad he passed out. He had this super real dream. In the dream Mom owed over $1 million from investing. The whole family was on the run, suffering through everything, and ended up getting killed. Only then did Mom tell him the money was actually from the aunt. It drove him crazy, leaving his 5-year-old brother all alone. He said that dream was too real. It really scared him. I told him it wasn't a dream. That actually happened. Dad nodded and made up his mind to cut ties with Mom for good. He said, "I already put in a transfer at the hospital. They agreed to let me work at a hospital in Yicheng. Let's sell the house in the next few days. I'm taking you and your brother out of here. Mom won't be able to find us anymore." We were busy packing up stuff, ready to start a new chapter, feeling so full of hope. Living through 2 lifetimes. Never felt this free before. After I signed the contract to sell the house, I went to Grandma Lee's to pick up my little brother, but Grandma Lee said Mom had already taken him. 19. My heart dropped. I just knew this wasn't going to be simple. I pulled out my phone and dialed Mom, but my aunt picked up instead. She got straight to the point. "If you want to see your brother, come alone." I gripped my phone tight and snapped back, "Are you threatening me? Kidnapping is a crime." My aunt's voice came through like she didn't care. "Your mom is here with me too. We're just visiting family. You think if you call the cops, your mom would just stand by?" For years, my aunt had been using Mom's favoritism to take whatever she wanted without fear. But this time, she would never get another chance. "Fine. I'll come alone." After I hung up, I called another number. "Hey, you want Lin Wanran's address, right? She's living at 20. I texted Dad to let him know I was okay, and took the train alone to my aunt's place. Her new home was nothing like her past life. After she dumped the debt on us, she got a big penthouse. But this was just an old rundown complex, still pretty convenient to live in. The moment I walked in, I saw 6 or 7 people crowded in the living room. My aunt and uncle were chilling on the couch watching TV. When my uncle saw me, he rolled his eyes and turned away. There were 3 strangers too. 2 elderly folks in simple clothes. One of them was the creditor I'd seen at my aunt's before. Next to them sat a big guy who seemed a bit slow, staring at me and grinning like an idiot. Pretty. Mom was over by the counter cutting fruit. My little brother was sprawled on the couch, almost asleep. I forced myself to ignore the feeling of being checked out. Walked over, picked up my brother, and was about to leave. My aunt looked at me and said, with a smirk, "My dear niece, you made it." She glanced at those people with a sly tone. "I told you my niece is gorgeous. You guys still made out like bandits." I yanked the door open, frustrated. That big dummy blocked the door. Drool running down his chin, he said, "Wifey, let's have a baby. You ain't going anywhere." I yelled back at him, "Dream on." The old lady grabbed my arm. "Your mom owes me money. That was the bride price for my son Chunming. That's not my mom's debt. Even if it was, she's got nothing to do with us now." Mom glared at me, stepping forward. Even now, she still didn't get it. That our relationship was already broken. No way to fix it. She still spoke like she was looking out for me. "Marrying your brother Chunming is a sweet deal. He's innocent. He can't keep track of money. You can manage the accounts at his family's laundry. How great is that? Once life gets better, you can help your mom and brother Haoxuan." Calling a dummy innocent. That came from my own mom's mouth. I let out a cold laugh. Since she was so stubborn, let her see who she's really fighting for. 21. I did the math. He should be here any minute. I opened the door and said, "You're Chunming, right? Wanna marry me? Then I gotta check out your place first." The old folks thought she was giving in. They nodded like crazy. My aunt stopped me dead in my tracks. "What are you up to now?" What could I possibly be up to? 3 pairs of eyes were on me. I was still holding my little brother. Think I could make a break for it. My aunt thought for a sec. She figured I had nowhere to run, so she told Chuming's folks to keep an eye on me. Just as she got down one flight of stairs, I saw Johu charging up with a machete. 22. Right away there was yelling and screaming upstairs. It was a total mess. Chuming wet his pants on the spot. His parents grabbed him and booked it, so they wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. I hid behind the door in the stairwell, and saw my uncle running out covered in blood. Once things quieted down, I snuck back to my aunt's with my baby brother asleep in my arms. Through the window I saw Johu lying in a pool of blood. He was already gone. My aunt was holding a knife, shaking all over. There was still a blade sticking out of Johu's chest. Mom's face was as white as a sheet. She looked at my traumatized aunt, and instantly got her cool back. She grabbed some clothes from the bedroom and changed my aunt. Washed the bloody clothes off, then snatched the knife and wiped off the fingerprints. She calmly said to my Aunt Wanru, "Listen up. When Johu came for the money, you were sleeping in your room. Chen Kai was the one who opened the door. He got into an argument with Johu, and you accidentally killed him. Got it? Chen Kai is my uncle's name. Mom was gonna pin a murder charge on the whole family to my uncle." My aunt just stared at Mom with a blank look. She didn't say a word, just cared about the kids. Mom had a sharp mind. Someone called the cops pretty quick. We all got taken to the station. 23. After Mom told her made-up story, the cops wanted my aunt to match the statement. And Mom was there pushing her. Just say it already. But Auntie spoke up and said my sister killed Johu. Mom looked at Auntie in shock. Couldn't believe what she heard. Auntie ignored her and said firmly, "My husband didn't come home today. Johu came with a machete demanding money. Said if we didn't pay he'd kill me." I was scared. So me and my sister grabbed knives to defend ourselves. Then in a panic we stabbed Johu with a fruit knife and he died. The cop looked at the evidence and said, "The handle does have Lin Wanqing's fingerprints. Anything else to say?" Mom asked Auntie in disbelief. "Why? We're family." Auntie had tears in her eyes, but her gaze was fierce. "Sis, if you really care about me, just confess. There's witnesses and evidence. Stop making excuses." Mom's face turned pale instantly, and she kept asking, "Why? I've been so good to you. Why are you framing me?" I pulled the cop aside and handed over the evidence I had. The full video recorded by the phone I hid in the couch when I picked up my brother. The video clearly showed Johu didn't get the money, swung his knife at Auntie. Mom hugged Johu. Auntie and her husband grabbed knives and killed him in a panic. The fatal stab to the chest was from Auntie's husband. Mom messed up the crime scene, and you could see her covering for her sister clear as day. The cop watched the video, frowned and asked me, "You sure she's your real mom? Not your auntie's real mom?" 24. I felt so sarcastic. Back in the interrogation room, Mom was still asking Auntie desperately, "Why would you make me die for an outsider?" Auntie thought everything was set, finally dropped the act, and said viciously, "You're the outsider. You said you'd help me pay back the debt. You're the older sister. Why shouldn't your family pay? This is all because you didn't help me. So the debt collectors came after us. Just take the blame, dragging my sister into paying off the debt together. How did my family end up like this?" Mom's whole world just collapsed. She kept repeating herself, "Am I an outsider? You're talking about my sister. We're real family." 25. The cops took my uncle in with video evidence. My uncle got the death penalty for murder. My aunt got life for helping cover up the murder. Mom got 3 years for destroying evidence and faking the scene. Their whole family is locked up together. 3 months later, Dad bought a house in the city. We moved into a new place. New Year's break. I still had this knot in my chest. Wanted to ask my mom, "Why were you so cruel to us?" But let my aunt get away with anything. I went to visit Mom in prison. First thing she said when she saw me was, "You had proof. Why didn't you show it sooner? You made me and your aunt fall out. I just wanted you to see what you were protecting with everything you had." Mom stared at me blankly. No light in her eyes at all. Then she said, "How Xuan and Meow Meow lost their parents. You gotta take care of them from now on. Siblings gotta look out for each other. Especially Meow Meow. As the older sister you gotta shelter them from the storm." I just found it totally nuts. He's already in prison. And still lecturing me to sacrifice for my aunt's kids. The why stuck in my throat. I never ended up asking. For someone with twisted values, who stubbornly lost, there's no point asking why. And no point trying to change them. All we can do is walk away for good. I pulled out a marriage certificate and a divorce certificate. Placed them in front of her. This is the first marriage license and the last divorce license you ever had. Dad told me to give them to you. With that, I walked away without looking back. This time, we finally broke free from that obsessed mom for good. When he gets out of jail, even if he still has to pay off my aunt's debt, it's got nothing to do with us anymore. I bought a ticket and headed back to City 1. The neighborhood of our new home is all fresh and clean. Even the air feels way fresher. Dad's holding a fish in his hand, leading my little bro by the door waiting for me. I've got the birthday cake in my hands. Today's my little bro's birthday. He's gonna have a perfect and happy birthday. The end.